You may think that shifting your reality takes months or even years of visualization, effort, and healing. You may believe breakthroughs only come after long struggles. You might think alignment arrives only after mastering countless techniques. But what if I told you that the real shift, the quantum leap, happens in a moment so subtle that most miss it? It's a hidden pattern, unnoticed by the untrained eye, that appears right before someone's life transforms. It doesn't happen when you work harder. It doesn't happen when you try more. It doesn't happen when you push yourself. It happens when something inside of you stops. Stops forcing, stops doubting, stops chasing. In that moment, the universe responds. In this video, we'll uncover the exact frequency that activates a quantum shift and why simplicity is the one thing your ego struggles to accept. You'll learn that the energetic skills that truly matter aren't just about strategy. They're about inner clarity and purity of intention. We'll explore the signs you're about to shift timelines and why breakdowns aren't failures but rather divine initiations. Let's begin with something you've likely felt but maybe never fully understood: the resistance to ease. That moment when things start to flow effortlessly and suddenly you get scared. When your soul knows the way, but your mind demands proof. You felt it, the tension between your higher self's clarity and your ego's survival patterns. We live in a world that glorifies struggle and effort. Complexity is worshipped, and if something feels too simple, it must be wrong. If it comes too easily, it must be undeserved. But in truth, the universe responds not to how hard you work, but to how pure your intentions are, how clear your frequency is. Clarity is found in simplicity. And simplicity is what the ego resists because it challenges the identity you've built around struggle, striving, and proving yourself. The false self thrives on complexity. When things are simple, it asks, what about all the effort? What does that mean about who I am and what I've gone through? Simplicity strips away the layers of drama, and without that drama, the ego has nothing to hide behind. And that's why so many unconsciously sabotage their own shifts. Not because they are broken, but because they fear the quiet truth that comes with it. They expect to see fireworks, but they get stillness. They want a lightning bolt, but the field gives them peace. Yet it's in that stillness, in that peace, that the shift happens. The universe mirrors back not your affirmations, but the energy of your current state. The moment you stop forcing, the moment you simply are, that's when the feedback loop of the universe changes. You stop waiting for external validation and begin to hold your own energetic tone, no matter the external circumstances. This is the difference between manifestation and true transformation. Manifestation often comes from a place of lack. It's about creating something you don't yet have. Shifting, on the other hand, is becoming the version of you that already exists in another now, in another reality. The only thing separating you from that timeline is your frequency filter. Not time, not effort, but your energy. So let me ask you, what if the challenge isn't that the shift is hard, but that it's unfamiliar? What if you've been trying to think your way into a new timeline instead of feeling your way into it? And what if the real block isn't your environment, but your attachment to complexity? In the next part of this video, we'll explore why so many people fail to stabilize their frequency and why blind spots can create static that the universe cannot interpret. You'll discover the hidden ways you resist resonance and how to begin broadcasting from a place that the universe can finally hear. Let's keep moving forward because this simplicity, it's your portal. And once you tap into it, everything changes. But if the quantum shift is so simple, why do so few people experience it? Why does it feel like an invisible wall keeps you trapped in the same emotional patterns, even when you know better? Why do your efforts plateau just when you think you're about to break through? It's because simplicity demands something far more profound than effort. It demands awareness. And without the safety net of complexity, Awareness can be terrifying. When things are complicated, you can blame the method, the tools, the process. But when things are simple, there's nowhere to hide. The spotlight is turned inward, and you're left with one question: am I really ready to shift? Now let's discuss what's blocking most people from holding the right frequency: blind spots. These aren't flaws, but patterns you're too close to see. Emotional reflexes you've normalized. Beliefs you've repeated so often they feel like truth. But here's the crucial part. The universe does not respond to what you consciously want. It responds to what you unconsciously are. So while your mind might be visualizing abundance, your frequency could still be coded with scarcity. Not because you're not trying, but because you've never questioned your default signal. Take a moment to reflect. What do you broadcast when no one is watching? What's the emotional climate of your inner world when you're not doing the work? That's your real frequency. And that's what the universe is picking up. This is where the first true mastery skill comes in: self-awareness. But it's not just about journaling or daily reflection. True self-awareness is cultivating a deep understanding of your thoughts as they happen, without judgment or the urge to fix them. It's the awareness that allows you to recognize when you're reacting out of survival and choose not to collapse into those reactions. The next step is even more challenging: radical responsibility. This is when your frequency begins to clean itself. It's not about blaming yourself for everything, but about taking full ownership of what you're emitting, especially the parts you'd rather disown. When you shift from "why is this happening to me?" to "what is this showing me about my frequency?" the universe begins to mirror you differently. Victimhood is loud, but incoherent, and the field responds to coherence, not chaos. Ownership is quiet but magnetic. It's a force that doesn't need to be seen but can't be denied. And then comes the skill that amplifies everything: accountability. These are the vibrational anchors you return to, no matter what life throws at you. Most people wait for life to validate their state, but those who are aligned to the quantum field hold their frequency until life has no choice but to reflect it back. Accountability means showing up for your state, even when it's inconvenient. Even when the evidence says you're crazy, even when it feels like nothing is moving. And then the most paradoxical one: detachment from perception. We're taught to judge everything. This is good, that is bad. This means I'm close, that means I've failed. But what if your low point is actually the final stage before the shift? What if the breakdown you're experiencing is simply the old frequency dissolving? Detachment doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you don't label. You allow the experience to move through you without assigning it a verdict. For the quantum field doesn't operate in linear terms. The darkest moments might be the very calibration required for the light to land. You're not just learning to think differently, you're learning to hold your vibration as the only truth. And that takes courage. It's far easier to distract yourself with methods and mantras, but it's much harder to sit in stillness and admit, "I've been looping because I'm still filtering life through old beliefs and stories." The quantum shift isn't complex, but it's precise. It cuts straight through illusion. It exposes parts of you that still crave chaos in order to feel alive, and it asks, will you let those pieces finally rest? In the next part, we'll dive deep into the moment right before the shift. The energetic tension that builds when your old identity begins to collapse, and your new timeline is almost within reach. Most people misinterpret this as failure, but if you know what to look for, you'll realize that this is the threshold of your breakthrough. Stay close, because what's coming next is where the old timeline ends and your true frequency begins. There is a moment, subtle, disorienting, and often misunderstood, that almost always comes before a true quantum shift. It's the moment when your old timeline starts to loosen, but the new one hasn't anchored yet. You feel suspended, like you're standing in a hallway between two realities. The past no longer fits, the future is unclear, and everything inside you screams to do something. But in truth, you are standing right on the edge of your transformation. This space is sacred, though it doesn't feel that way. It often shows up as confusion, fatigue, misalignment, or even despair. You might feel like you're failing, that the path you were once sure about has suddenly disappeared, that your vision is breaking down instead of coming alive. And if you don't understand what's happening, you might misinterpret this as a sign to retreat, to shrink, to try harder, or worst of all, to doubt yourself. But here's the truth. This is not collapse. It's calibration. Before any quantum leap, your field must let go of its current coherence pattern. Think of it like tuning from one radio station to another. There's static in between. That static feels like disorientation, emotional noise, and the impulse to run. But it's not a warning. It's a threshold. The old frequency can no longer hold your next chapter, and that's why it feels like things are falling apart. What's really happening is this. The energy that once held your old identity together is dissolving. The beliefs, habits, and energetic loops that defined you are losing their charge. And without that charge, your ego has nothing to hold on to. So it panics. It creates fear, doubt, and restlessness. That's not a mistake. That's the ego trying to pull you back into the old pattern. This moment before the shift is when most people quit, not because the universe is saying no, but because they misread the friction as failure instead of seeing it as the friction of transformation. The truth is, if it feels shaky, you're close. If things seem uncertain, you're almost there. What you're really experiencing is your frequency shedding everything that no longer aligns with your highest self. This is why detachment is so vital. If you judge this transitional space too soon, you'll assign it a meaning that pulls you backward. You'll call it wrong. You'll label it as stuck. You'll use it as proof that nothing is working. And in that moment, you stabilize the old pattern again. But if you can stay centered, not through effort, but through awareness, something begins to shift under the surface. The chaos softens. The edges dissolve. You begin to feel the presence of power not in your intensity, but in your coherence. When you choose to stay present in uncertainty, without labeling it, your field organizes itself around your stillness. That's the moment the quantum field responds. So what can you do in that space? Nothing in the traditional sense. This is not the time to fix, hustle, or push. This is the time to tune in, to breathe into the discomfort, to observe the stories, to soften your timeline. Your job is not to force a new reality into being. Your job is to become available for it. That's the real shift, not controlling the outcome, but surrendering to the vibration that already contains it. Now let's break down how the quantum field reads your signal and why what you think you're broadcasting may not be what it is truly receiving. We will also explore how to clean your resonance so you can align with a life that is already waiting for you in the quantum. You don't need to push harder. You need to hold your signal steady, even when nothing seems to make sense, especially in those moments. That's when the portal opens. That's when reality bends, and that's when your shift becomes inevitable. Let's talk about signals. You've likely heard that the quantum field responds to frequency, not words. But here's what most people miss. Your energy is always broadcasting, whether you're aware of it or not. What you're broadcasting isn't just your intention, it's your embodiment. You can say you're ready. You can write affirmations, meditate, even visualize every detail of your dream timeline. But if underneath all of that, your signal is laced with doubt, urgency, fear, or the need to prove yourself, that's the true message the field is receiving. The field doesn't respond to language. It mirrors your resonance. So, what does that really mean? It means that your inner world is your only true strategy. Your nervous system is the instrument that tunes your life. And coherence, that deep, unshakable alignment between your thoughts, emotions, and state of being, is the key signature the quantum field listens to. Coherence doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. Think of it like tuning a radio. If you're even slightly off the station, all you get is static. You might hear a word here, a melody there, but it's fragmented, distorted. The same is true for your field. When your frequency is filled with contradiction, wanting something but not believing it, asking for something but not receiving it, speaking but not feeling it, your signal comes through unclear, incoherent. And incoherence only gets one response from the field: delay. This is why quantum shifting isn't about doing more. It's about cleaning the signal. And cleaning doesn't mean censoring your feelings. It means aligning them. It means owning your energy so fully that there's no split between your intention and your embodiment. Here's the catch. Most people try to force coherence. They try to think their way into a feeling. They analyze their vibration, overprocess their blocks, micromanage their inner state like a project. But coherence doesn't come from control. It comes from surrender. You can't fake resonance. You can't intellectualize your way into magnetic alignment. You feel your way there by softening into the truth of who you already are. So, what creates that level of resonance? Clarity, stillness, honesty, choosing to embody what you want before it shows up, not in performance, not in delusion, but in calm certainty. This is the energetic signal the quantum field responds to. I already am. I already hold. I already resonate. Not because it's here, but because it's true. And this is where your field begins to shift, not from effort, not from striving, but from attunement. When your nervous system begins to trust your frequency, it stabilizes. And when your signal stabilizes, your external reality can finally organize around it. Now, here's the moment of truth. Comment, I am the shift. Let that phrase be your anchor, not as a declaration to the universe, but as a recognition of what already exists within you. Say it not to convince, but to confirm. Because when you speak from embodiment, the field listens. And when the field listens, reality moves. Now let's decode the exact mechanics of how the field mirrors you, how your attention acts as a selector, how coherence becomes a command, and why effort is the least effective way to generate change. What you'll see is this: you don't shift reality. You shift into the version of you that already exists within it. And that shift begins now. Now that you've felt the truth of coherence and the power of resonance, it's time to explore how the quantum field actually responds. Because if you've ever wondered why some intentions manifest instantly while others seem to drift endlessly in possibility, the answer is this: the field doesn't reward desire. It reflects your dominant vibration. And that vibration is dictated by one thing: where your attention lives consistently. Let's break that down. The quantum field is infinite. Every version of you already exists within it. Every potential outcome is already encoded, waiting not to be created, but to be observed. The observer effect in quantum mechanics tells us that particles don't form into matter until they're measured, focused on, collapse from wave into form. This means your attention isn't just passive, it's constructive. It chooses which version of reality steps forward. This is why quantum shifting is not about controlling outcomes. It's about selecting them with your focus and stabilizing that selection with your state. Most people don't realize that their attention is fragmented. They think about abundance in the morning, worry about lack in the afternoon, and fall asleep in a fog of doubt. That's not consistency. That's a chaotic broadcast. The field doesn't punish that chaos. It just reflects it. That's why the results seem scrambled, delayed, unclear. But when your attention becomes laser-focused, when you learn to hold your vision without chasing it, needing it, or doubting it, something extraordinary happens. The potential timeline begins to organize around you. The people, resources, moments, and even micro-decisions align, not by effort, but by entrainment, by resonance. You're not forcing reality to change. You're collapsing into the version of reality that's already vibrating at your frequency. You don't shift with thought alone. You shift with identity. Your thoughts might want the shift, but your subconscious identity, the deep, often unspoken emotional signature you operate from, might still be tuned to the old pattern. And if that's the case, the field will mirror the identity, not the thought. This is where the internal work becomes sacred, not as a to-do list, but as a returning. Every time you bring yourself back to coherence, not from fixing, but from remembering, you reinforce a new identity. Not an identity you're trying to become, but one that already exists inside you, waiting for permission to lead. So ask yourself, who are you being right now? Not in performance, not in effort, but in tone, in truth, in stillness. Because that version of you, the one already living the life you've been visualizing, is not waiting. It's available. And you access it not by reaching, but by receiving. In our final chapter, we'll crystallize this journey. You'll learn how to fully integrate quantum shifting as a natural process, not something you do, but something you live. We'll also decode the final key to stabilizing your new timeline so it doesn't just appear temporarily, but becomes your new normal. Stay close. The shift isn't ahead of you. It's already happening. Let's bring it all home. You now understand that the quantum field doesn't respond to effort. It responds to coherence. It doesn't care what you say you want. It reflects what you consistently are. And the shift, it's not out there. It's within. Simpler than anyone dares to believe. So simple, in fact, that the ego often overlooks it, dismisses it, or tries to complicate it. But here's what those who actually shift, those who live new timelines, know: the simplicity isn't a trap. It's the truth. And the reason so few stabilize in their new reality isn't because they're doing it wrong. It's because they don't stay long enough in the signal that allows it to become real. So let's say it plainly, you don't quantum shift by doing more. You shift by aligning more cleanly, more calmly, more truthfully. You shift when you stop running after the version of you that already exists and start being them. Now, that doesn't mean you fake it. It doesn't mean you force joy when you feel grief. It means you hold space for the full spectrum of experience without collapsing your identity. That is emotional mastery. That is energetic maturity. That is what the quantum field responds to. You're not here to chase the shift. You're here to embody the one who shifts easily. And once you realize that, life stops being a pursuit and becomes a mirror. That's when you move through reality differently. Your energy enters the room before you do. You speak less but are heard more. You ask less and receive more. Not because you're manipulating the field, but because you are the field in harmony with itself. This is why the masters of manifestation don't teach methods. They transmit states. They help you feel something ancient already alive within you. They don't add, they reveal. And so, this is your invitation to remember what you already are right now, in this moment. The timeline exists. The one where you are clear, calm, magnetic, certain, aligned. Not because everything around you is perfect, but because you are no longer outsourcing your frequency to your circumstances. Let this be the shift that stabilizes. Let this be the signal you return to again and again. Not to perform, but to belong. And if you've made it this far, you already know this isn't just a video. It's a transmission. And something in you, something subtle but unmistakable, has already started to rearrange. If you felt it, if it resonated, if something clicked, subscribe now. Not just for the next video, but for the next version of you. This isn't just a channel. It's a frequency. And every subscriber is a signal to the field. I remember who I am. Welcome back. You've always been the shift. And now the field knows it